Hello, and welcome to your spiritual journey. Right now, your soul is speaking to you. I'm Jenny Israel, and I'm a medical intuitive, energy healer, spiritual activator, counselor, and teacher. It is my mission to help you learn the tools you need to heal your life and discover your deeper purpose. In each episode, I will allow Spirit to speak through me, and we will explore energy forecasting, teach you how to raise your vibration for overall wellness, increase your emotional intelligence to open up joy in your life, and guide you into spiritual evolution using topics such as energy healing, emotion code, sacred geometry, numerology, tarot, crystals, channeling, and much more. Take a deep inhale, let it out, and listen to your soul speak to you. Hey everybody. I am here with your March forecast that we've already blown through February, and we are moving into the beginning of what would be spring season. So, every month at the beginning of the month, I do a meditation for myself on the incoming energies of what the month's going to look like, and I pull a bunch of different cards. And I have a few different categories that I like to pull cards on. I always have some sort of elemental or animal card that I pull from. I always pull from a galactic perspective, or sometimes I'll do the elemental inside of that. I always pull from the angelic realm, the Akashic realm, and then I look at health and wellness. And so this month, when I sat down to do my meditation and I pulled my cards, it was one of those card pulls that you're just kind of in awe of how consistent the message is from card to card to card. And so I did my meditation last week. But since I'm doing the broadcast today, I pulled all the cards back out, so you guys could see what I saw when I did the forecast. And then there's always a card that I pull that's the overall energy of the month itself. So the card that I pulled for the overall energy of the month itself is from the Archangel Metatron deck, Amanda Ellis's deck, and it's the Tree of Life. And the number of this card is 32, which is 5. So we're into that 5 energy that is pretty much our year, right? 2021. But overall, this card it's called Travel On. It's the Tree of Life, but Travel On. So what this means is that you've reached a point where you're ready to level up in your path. And depending on what color you're drawn to will tell you exactly where you're going to head next. You'll see that we've got a lot of the chakra colors in there as well. So just take a moment to kind of tune in what color you're drawn to and just kind of remember that for yourself. And I would encourage you to just, for those of you who have the Amanda Ellis deck, go find this card, the number 32 Tree of Life card, and see, it talks about the colors inside of the description of the card itself. But you can also do some research on that particular color. If you know which color is associated with which chakra, you can do a little research on that. But generally speaking, the message of this card is that it's time for us to travel on. And I just kept hearing in my head to keep on trucking. And when I pulled that card, I also was hearing take flight. And I'm a big REO Speedwagon fan. And so the guides were playing the song for me, It's Time for Me to Fly. And so when I went to look at the lyrics of that particular song, what I found was really interesting about that song was that from the perspective of the person who's singing the song, it talks about a relationship and the tug of war that was going on inside of the relationship and how amazing the relationship felt at times, but for the most part, it was holding him back. And that it was time for him to fly, time for him to travel on, away from the things that potentially felt safe, and into whatever the next chapter was. Now, from the perspective of relationships, that's where quite a few of us end up getting stuck in our lives, because we don't want to let go of the thing that we know, the comfortable, even if the comfortable isn't for our highest and greatest good as far as our growth and where we're going. It's what we know, and giving up that creates a lot of discomfort and change, and we always grieve change, and so it tends to keep us stuck inside of relationships perhaps longer than we would like to be. So March is bringing these themes forward, and regardless of how you have that dynamic inside of your life, maybe it is inside of relationship, maybe it's with your job, maybe it's just with your general well-being and your happiness or your health. March is the cards that got pulled for March is just so exciting. I mean, it is truly the energy of cleaning out and moving on. Really letting go of the old, letting go of the past, letting it die once and for all, going through that grieving process if we need to, and going to the next level. And what's really cool about the incoming energy of March is that we know we have the spring solstice coming in. For those inside of the Christian faith, we're in Lent right now, preparing to, we're moving towards Easter. So we're very much inside of that cleaning out your life kind of mentality, and moving in the resurrection energy of rebirth. That goes with the spring solstice as well as Easter, celebrating Easter, and which is the resurrection of the Christ consciousness and the ascension process of that. And gosh, it couldn't be more literal right now, could it? Like we've been talking about the ascension and this resurrection energy and the bathing of the globe and this Christ consciousness energy, and it just feels so present and so real this year. Not so much more than a concept at this point. It really does feel real. And so I'm just going to go through the collection of cards that I pulled, and then we'll kind of tie all of those themes together. So it was the Tree of Life card was the general energy of the month itself. The first cards that I pulled were my animal connections, and I have a deck called the Divine Dog Wisdom. And so I've got two cards here, and the reason why is because these popped out together. And so this was the primary card, Expression, so speak your truth. And then the card that came with it was Humility, bow down. Now, the way that I felt about these two particular cards was that inside of our rebirth, we're in our leveling up, we're moving into a new level of authenticity. And inside of expressing expression, we learn to speak our truth. Now, what we are finding, especially just coming out of this season of shadow with this Mercury retrograde that we just went into, we are really finding ourselves connecting with a higher level of truth, more our higher self level of truth. And this is what this whole year was supposed to be about, right? Discovering this new level of truth that's more in line with your authentic self, inside of the energy of the Aquarian age, which is more in line with the God self. And so this is really, really, it's the transparency of authenticity and truth as we're seeing it inside of our day-to-day lives and inside of our media and our politics and, all of these things that are being really dug up from the depths, and that we're getting to see things that potentially were hidden for quite some time. Well, the same thing is happening inside of our own lives, especially coming out of this last cycle of what I was calling the hero's journey, because we really got to go inside and play inside the shadow in a very deep way. And it wasn't, that time was meant to be very transformative. It was, you were meant to go into those feelings. You're meant to feel them, acknowledge them, use them for what they're supposed to be used, which is a navigational tool as to where you're going to go next. And so that coming out of that phase, we are truly busting out of the cocoon this month. So it is about full expression of this new level of truth, full expression of all of the things that have been falling into place up until now, having the courage to actually create action and kind of burst forth with this. And we are still in this really interesting place of the unknown, right? It's, we still kind of feel like we can't really make all the plans we'd like to make as far as like if you're traveling or, whatever that looks like, sometimes, especially inside of the environment and the culture that we're in now with COVID, it becomes even more difficult to make plans, or, what's next. And so the element of the unknown is very much addressed in these cards and addressed in the month of March. And what I found really interesting is that I was just working with my husband, and my 8-year-old is in the process of, he's in his religious studies, and the lesson that he was doing this past week was very much around the mystery of Christ's death and resurrection. So the mystery of the Paschal, I guess, and that information that's taught inside of the whole concept of what Easter really is, Lent, and all the things that we're celebrating, and what that looks like inside of the life of Jesus. And I love the fact that there was the word mystery that came up, because I feel like that is very appropriate for what we're going to be seeing inside of our own March energy. We are looking at the unknown. We're looking at the mystery. And what our guides are asking us to do this month is to find the spirit of adventure inside of that. And so expression is very much about that as well. Being able to find this truth that's bubbling up inside of us. More likely than not, it's associated with you wanting to find happiness, to find joy, to find deep connection, to get connected with your passion and your purpose. And so how do we express that? And inside of this new dynamic of, we've been using the words of radical self-care, personal truth inside of, really taking care of you, and that your truth isn't always going to match with what everybody else's truth looks like. And perhaps what you need and want isn't going to jive with what other people need and want. And the reason being is because we're being asked to purge these levels of codependence inside of our lives. And I talked about that in the last video that I just did about the full moon, my own experiences with that. And so there is this element of mystery, and we're being asked to see it as adventure and, this exciting new beginning, this new chapter that we're moving into. And part of that new balance of taking care of ourselves and releasing codependence, for those of us who were deeply entrenched in patterns of codependence where we were in service to others all the time, to a point where we were probably in a victim energy with that, or a martyrdom energy with that. Sometimes when we're looking to break free from those patterns, we swing to the other extreme, which is, forget everybody else. I'm just going to do what I need to do and go into total selfishness, right? And so what we're looking to do is kind of find the middle ground inside of this. And I think that's where the humility part becomes really important, because as we are driving into this new level of truth, we're also driving forward in our ascension process, which means that we're attempting to start to let go of the ego, the old ego control, right, of how we used to do things, where there's a very high level of what I would consider self-importance energy that is only self-serving, and that inside of that, there still isn't balance in that, right? So it is trying to find that the balancing act between those two things. And so I think that's where the humility is. And the bow down for me is also the idea that we need to be very connected with our higher power. We need to be very connected with our source energy, and understand that is an integral part of who we are, what we're experiencing, the abundance that we're pulling into our lives. That's not just a functionality of you and your ego, that there is a higher power inside of that, and a higher self. And so the humility is also you in partnership with this higher self. So those are our divine dog wisdom cards. The next one that I pulled in my galactic category, I actually went with my elemental oracle by Stacey DeMarco, and I pulled the card number 3. Again, we're looking at Trinity energy here, of the East. And so what happens in the East? The sun rises in the East, the new dawn, the beginning of a new day. And so again, it matches with the whole energy of the bursting into the spring season, the earth's awakening, the earth's rebirth, seeds taking root, the new little sprouts coming up out of the ground. All of the symbolism inside of what spring means, and inside of this season of resurrection. And so it is, again, the East. The direction East is associated with air, which is also very appropriate with what we're talking about, this higher version of truth that we're coming into that needs to be expressed, that's inside the Aquarian age, which the Aquarian age is the air, it's the spirit of the mind. But we're looking at the Aquarian way of the mind, which is innovation, new ways of seeing things, new perspectives on old truths. So I've said it before, it's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's about really digging into where your core values are and your belief systems, and turning them on their heads to get a better look, to get a new perspective on things. To see potentially where the old beliefs or core values might be holding you back, and how to start to reorganize these beliefs that allow you to see things in a new way, to start revealing the hidden things that perhaps were in your blind spot before. So that was my elemental oracle that I pulled. The next card was from the Angel Oracle, from Kyle Gray, I believe. And it's opportunity and change. And so again, it just goes with the whole theme here. But one of the most important elements of this card that I felt that came forward was that the angels were saying, if you're at a crossroads right now and you're having trouble deciding which way to go, they're saying, take the new road. Do something completely new. Do something completely different. And this is where we really open our wings and fly, like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. It is time for us to develop the strength of our new wings by pushing ourselves out of that dark little comfortable place, and to set ourselves free and to spread our wings and fly. And in a brand new way, in a brand new direction, completely acknowledging the unknown and having a higher level of trust and faith in our connection with our truth and our higher self, that if we launch in this new direction, that we will be supported. And this isn't to say that everything's going to be successful. Making mistakes is a really valuable part of any new path. We have to see what works and what doesn't work. And this is how we fine tune our strategies and our paths. And it's not about stopping inside of the failure because we want to go into this place of, oh, well, see, I couldn't do it. And, no, we're taking a new direction inside of that where we are looking at it as an adventure. And sometimes you get lost on the path. You have to kind of backtrack a bit and try a new path. But what the guides are saying is no matter which path you choose, trying something new, you will be rewarded for that thing. And so the card that I pulled directly after that was from the Akashic Tarot, and it's Paths Unknown, the 8 of Scrolls. So this is it, right? She's standing in the middle of a crossroads. She's got all of these different paths that stretch out before her, and she can't really see very far into the wood, but she's got all the knowledge she needs. All the maps are in her little satchel right there. So she has everything she needs. She just has to decide which way she's going to go. So it doesn't matter if the path leads to something unknown that we can't see, because we have everything we need in order to navigate whichever path we choose. And then the final card that I pulled for wellness was from the Daily Crystal Affirmation deck, and it's selenite. Clear the clutter. How appropriate. I mean, come on. Like, it's spring. What do we think of in spring? Spring cleaning, right? We want to get into all of the closets and organize and clean stuff out. It's just that feeling of needing to clean out to make room for the new that's trying to come in, right? And this is something we talk about all the time. You cannot manifest a new direction or pull something new into your life if you're holding on to all of the old stuff, because now there is no space to unpack this new stuff that's trying to come in. And so all of these cards are working together to show us that there are new paths opening up, new opportunities, completely new things that might feel a little crazy or totally extreme and like taking that big risk in a direction you thought you would never go. But if there was ever a time to do it, it's right now. And I think that for some of us, the block is the clutter. Okay. So it's like, okay, this new path has emerged for me, but there's this giant roadblock in the way. Okay. So get in there and start pulling it apart. You know, it's the same thing as wanting to clean out your garage in the spring. You throw open the garage door and it's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff. It's so overwhelming. I don't know where to begin. And all it is just honing your perspective, picking one corner and starting there. So whatever that thing is that needs to be cleaned out. And the moving the energy of these roadblocks or cleaning out the clutter in our lives, it is always symbolic of the mental clutter or the emotional clutter. And what is the clutter? It's things we've accumulated that we've been afraid to let go of. It's the things that we've been holding on to just in case, right? And I was just talking about this in my full moon video. So this full moon that we just went through was such a huge gateway for the energy that March is going to be bringing in for us. It is truly about finding the courage to let that stuff go. Once and for all, just let it go. And to stop holding on to things, stop hoarding, right? And I was actually just having this conversation this morning. You know, one of my good friends was saying, you know, I can't help but notice this shift in time and how quickly everything seems to be moving. And I find myself in this place of reflecting backwards and getting, you know, like really having my heartstrings pulled of like remembering the times that were and how quickly those things are moving forward. And I think that this is inside of our new dimensionality as we are trying to ascend forward, letting go of these old things that keep us looking backwards. It's like we're pining for what was. Why? Why are you pining for what was? Taking a real good look at that, because the more time we spend looking backwards, the less present we are in what's right in front of us. And we're missing it. And these are the things that are in our proverbial garage, right? Or our proverbial closets, the things that we've been holding on to just in case. And why is it? To provoke feeling? Because you can go back to those things and know and re-experience those emotions. Because right now, what's right in front of you is too big to grab onto it, to dig into the emotions of the now. But this is what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to look it straight in the face so we can clear our path, leave those things behind, and set forth in this new direction that truly the feeling, the emotions around this are like, it's like being on the roller coaster and you're about to go down and you're like, woohoo! Like that's the kind of energy that March is bringing in if you allow it. Because there's always the belly rush. There's always the fear, right? Of like that first dip on the roller coaster when you go. It's like, but it's it's a fear that we almost crave, the adrenaline rush, the excitement, the adventure of it. And this is what our guides want us to dig into, that exhilaration, the joy. I think back to, there was an Abraham Hicks video that I had watched, and it was, I can't remember the title of it, but it was like maybe one of the most important questions that Esther Hicks had ever been asked, that Abraham had ever been presented with. And this person stood up and basically the gist of the question was, why would a dog hang its head out the window, knowing the risk of the bug in the eye, or, that kind of thing. And her answer was, well, it's the same reason why you came to Earth as in this incarnation, is because you knew the contrast that would be here. And you knew the adventure and the excitement that you would find inside of that an occasional bug in the eye was completely worth the ride and the exhilaration and the excitement of the wind on your face. And where are we going? I don't know, but it's really exciting. Like the way that a dog looks at life, it's just pure joy and adventure and excitement. And yeah, maybe there's a bug in the eye, but it's not even anything that they pay attention to. That it's the exhilaration of the ride. And this is the energy that we're bursting into for March and for spring. And what your guides are saying is that your opportunity to be completely set free and completely reborn into something new in this ascension direction is just being handed to you this month. Your work is digging in and figuring out where the resistance is, how much energy you are spending on resisting the change. And if you can transform that energy into momentum forward and letting go, you're going to shoot off like a rocket. And so I don't think we think about how much energy we expend on resisting the change. And I guarantee that if you really sit down and look, this is where the soul fatigue is coming in. This is why we're tired, is because we are resisting the inevitable shift and change of where we need to go. And this pop up and this pop forward requires us to dig into some things that maybe we don't want to look at, maybe we don't want to hear it, and maybe we don't want to touch it. But until we do, we cannot clean out those closets. We can't clean out the garage. We can't dig into those roadblocks until we're literally ready to put our hands on it and face what's there. And then as we're cleaning it out, letting it go once and for all. So that pretty much sums up March. I am, if you can't tell, very much feeling the excitement of this new energy that's coming in, and this new direction that has mystery and unknown, which if you connect with the excitement inside of that will trump the fear that wants to bubble up. I hope you all enjoyed this little March forecast of the energy that's coming in this month, and wishing you all a beautiful month of this transition, in like a lion, out like a lamb. Is that what they say for March? Which is appropriate because that's what they said about the Christ energy, right? Jesus was known as the lion and the lamb. So all of my love and blessings and healing for this season of spring, this season of unknown, this season of mystery, this season of revelation and resurrection and rebirth. And as always, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to Soul Speak. I'm Jenny Israel, medical intuitive, energy healer, spiritual activator, counselor, and teacher. You can learn more by following me on Facebook or Instagram at Jenny Israel CPC. That's Jenny Israel, and then the letter CPC. If you would like to receive more messages from Spirit directly to your mailbox, visit jennyisrael.com, scroll down to the bottom, and subscribe to my newsletter. You can also contact me through my website or social media to set up a one-on-one session or to check out my upcoming spiritual development classes. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please help support my show by giving it a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. Spirit and I will speak to you again soon. Blessings and light to all.